All right, we are live. Episode 20 of Boys Bet Ball. Surprised we made it this far. Actually, I'm not because we're freaking consistent. And this is March Madness edition. We have a special guest here today on the show. Our guy, Nate, or as we like to call the Serbian on BYU, Boskovic.
Yeah, I'm hoping I'm hoping I could do some damage tomorrow night. But yeah, no, thanks for having me, guys. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, former collegiate basketball player. So we figured, played college basketball and follows college basketball. Has a wife that refs college basketball. Not any of the games, so viewer discretion advised. We are not fixing any games.
No collusion here.
But yeah, just another expert and somebody else to add to the commentary to probably the most fun time of the year, the most exciting tournament, March Madness. So we're going to get into it and, talk about predictions, upsets, teams that we think going to underperform and overperform. I don't know if you wanted to quickly touch on last night, Mike.
Let's do a quick recap on World Baseball Classic last night. And man, I will say it was a really good game. Very disappointing from the U.S. side. Like, all credit and props to Venezuela. Like, they were by far the most deserving team to win it. Think about it. What did they go 3-1 in their pool? Which their pool honestly wasn't too great. I think they had they were second in their pool. They had the Dominican Republic. I think that's the only team they might have lost to. And the Dominican Republic is very good. I honestly thought they should have beat the U.S. But yeah, Venezuela, you had I don't know how to pronounce his first name, Suarez. Well, first of all, you had Eugenio Suarez hitting the go-ahead double to get the lead for Venezuela 3-2 over the U.S. The U.S., they weren't total laydowns, or at least Bryce Harper wasn't. He had a 2-run home run, and I believe the bottom of the 7th or the bottom of the 8th. And
bottom of the 8th,
yeah, tied the game. And Venezuela responded. The weight of a people in arepas weighed on Suarez's shoulders, and he delivered for them. And yeah, to be fair, even the quarterfinal starting there, they beat Japan, which was a very stacked Japan. They were just able to get hits. Their pitching was able to do enough. And in the semifinals, they beat what I call USA 2.0 Italy, because literally their whole team was born in the U.S. They're just of Italian descent. And they beat Italy. And yeah, they show up in the final and they beat the U.S. And the U.S., like I said, was not deserving of a WBC championship. Honestly, anyone coming out of that side probably would have beat the U.S. As you can see, Italy already beat the U.S. in pool play. And I think Japan would have done the same. So disappointing as an American, but the best team won, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a perfect setup for going into March Madness too, because you never know what's going to happen in the month of March when it comes to sports.
Yeah, most definitely. I was hoping we would lose the DR just because I felt like we've underperformed the entire tournament.
I also bet the DR and we freaking won.
And I played because, I know Venezuela had a good tournament, but I thought USA would finally put it together. They'd win, and it was only 1.5 spread. So I played that. I play on Kalshi, so odds dropped, and I was able to spin out of it. But I was between that and the run line, which I think was 8.5. And I really thought
what you mean the total, not the run line.
The total, runs. I think it was 8.5, and I thought it was pretty safe. No, it could get end of the game scoring a couple runs and it can cook me. But I feel like there's 3 kind of groups that deserve the most blame. Number 1, the offense. Championship game, you have 3 hits the whole game. This is probably the greatest United States team ever assembled, and that's what you come up with. Our captain, Aaron Judge, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Whether he's dropping the ball in the World Series or striking out 3 times in the championship game, can't really rely on him. The manager who thought we had clinched our group before the Italy game.
You saw what they said about obviously this was a meme, but they're like, why didn't you put Mason Miller at the end? You know, bottom, like top of the ninth, or no, yeah, top of the ninth. Make sure Venezuela doesn't score, so you have a chance to win the game at the end of regulation. And there is someone put a meme. It's like, well, we were just prepping, like saving him for game 2.
Yeah, game 2 tonight, 5 p.m. Pacific time. I think Tarek Skubal's taking them out. So, yeah, I think he said, like, you know, we would promise that if we were leading, then he would pitch, but we weren't leading. And it was just like, so you weren't going to play him because if it went to extras, the home team can never lead. It would just be a walk-off.
Yeah, so supposedly what I read was Mark DeRosa promised the Padres like he wouldn't play them under certain circumstances, which is like, come on, dude. Like, man, yeah, I'm somewhat upset. I get it. These MLB teams, these players mean so much to them, and they have so much money tied up in them. But like, it's the freaking like World Cup of baseball. So I think it ultimately should be the player's choice.
If you're there, you should be playing
instead of the team's choice. Not even the like USA. It's like the professional team.
Yeah, and probably the last group. It pains me to say because I think there's a good chance he will be a future Dodger, like most great players. But Tarek Skubal, probably the best pitcher on the planet, opting out of the World Baseball Classic after pitching 50-something pitches against Great Britain in pool play. Definitely could have used him in the championship game. We rolled with rookie Nolan McLean from the Mets. And then Tarek Skubal ended up pitching on Saturday, pitched about 50-something pitches in spring training. I get it's not as high stakes, but like Mike said, it's basically the Olympics of the playoffs, and we needed him. So I guess we'll try again in another 3 years.
Yeah, I would wish the World Baseball team would learn from the U.S. basketball team of our past mistakes doing that.
I don't know. I have a good feeling, and I have good faith that this like smells like reminiscence of like Redeem Team back in what was it, 2008 or 2003? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Oh wait, yeah, because we lost in 2004.
Yeah,
but I mean, we lost 3 years ago in 2023 in the finals against Japan. This was supposed to be the Redeem Team, and then you have Tarek Skubal opting out and Bryce Harper forgetting to play baseball until the last inning. Cal Raleigh, runner up in the MVP, not getting a single hit the whole tournament.
Yeah. I will say I do like the move how they swapped him for Will Smith, because
for Will Smith, the best catcher in baseball.
Yeah, dude, like that guy, like literally. So I like that decision. Unfortunately, I mean, it obviously was a good decision. Didn't really pan out to do anything, but yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, that's the recap. And without further ado, we want to just jump into March Madness.
Yeah, let's go ahead and hop into March Madness. All right. Looks like Spencer preps some stuff to talk about. I don't know.
Yeah, do we have like a blank bracket we can pull up? I don't want to show mine because we're in a couple.
Here, I can pull one up. I can just create a new one.
You have something you can share?
Yeah. Let me create one real quick.
While we're waiting, Nate is also a big-time Laker fan like I am. So I wanted to ask him, what are his thoughts on our most recent run? And what do you think our ceiling and floor is for the rest of the season and postseason?
You know, I try to put my bias aside when I talk about my Lakers, but I think we've been dealing with a lot of ego problems in the middle of the season. I was reading about DeAndre Ayton this morning about how he's noticing how guys in the locker room are and how he just needs to accept his role. And so, I mean, being a Laker, you already got the pressures of, performing in front of Hollywood and all this stuff. And so being in the NBA, every person who made it to the NBA was that guy in high school and in college. And now when you get to the NBA, we don't need a bunch of those guys. We need you to play in your role. And so I think once people on our team finally accept those roles and just stick to what they're best at, I mean, I could see us definitely making it to the Western Conference Finals. If now, granted, we have the best offensive player in the league. Now, half of the time, though, I don't even see him getting back on defense. And so these are the little things that I'm hoping that we can adjust. That being said, the Lakers, I could also see us being a first round out team. And so I think it's going to really, LeBron's going to have to accept his role that this is Luka and Reeves' team now. And I think once everybody kind of all, accepts that, then I think we could do some damage. I'm actually really liking the Spurs, though, this season. I think the Western Conference is always loaded. And so we'll definitely have a battle. But, I mean, the way we're playing right now, sometimes I'm thinking we're the best team in the league. So
I love it. I just asked because I've been pretty adamant and a pretty hard critic of the Lakers.
For sure, you got to be
going as far as saying, I don't think we get out of the first round. These last 10 games where we've won 9 of the last 10 and 6 straight, I started to convince me, we've beaten a lot of easy teams, but a lot of good teams, the Knicks, the Timberwolves, the Nuggets, Houston, on Monday, and then we're playing Houston again tonight. If we win again, we win the season series. With the win on Saturday against the Nuggets, we took the season series, so a lot of tiebreakers going our way. I believe Anthony Edwards just recently got hurt, and he's out for about 1 to 2 weeks. So, things are falling in place where, I think it's possible to get out of the first round. It kind of just comes down to that second round where we're most likely facing, the Thunder or the Spurs. And hey, like prove me wrong, Lakers, because I just don't see us beating one of those two teams.
Well, and the problem is that I'll watch them one night and I'm thinking, man, we could beat anybody in this league, and then the very next game I'm like, man, I don't even put us in the playoffs to save us from the embarrassment. And so there's I think consistency is what the Lakers need, is because you got a lot of games in a row that you're going to be playing. And so I think the Lakers do good for a little bit and then they slack off, and then do good for a little bit, slack off. And so this is, if the Lakers want to do anything this year, every game has to be 100%. And that's the one thing the Lakers have been really struggling with, is giving 100% each game.
Yeah, that's the trouble of having both LeBron and Luka on your team at the same time.
Yeah, a lot of 3-on-5 going on.
Yeah, I'll just end with, I like role player LeBron, scoring 15 to 18 points a game. And kind of, I went to the game on Saturday and he Superman dive for a loose ball, got it, and not too much focused on the scoring. Luka and Reeves have been handling that. So I think it's going to come down to the defense. Where's DeAndre Ayton's effort? Because the reality is he is our best center, and you have a lot of good centers in the West. So defense, DeAndre Ayton's effort, and then bench scoring, or kind of just scoring outside of those big three. I constantly look at the box score, and I think last night was 13 points. Typically, it doesn't really go over 20 points. So I know they put LeBron with the second unit. That helps out a lot. But if the offense gets stagnant, if we're not scoring, our defense isn't there to stop the other team from scoring, and the game can get out of hand.
Exactly.
So we'll have to be seen, but coming down to it, and I like the way we're playing. So I just want to do a quick little sidebar on the Lakers. But Mike's got the bracket pulled up, and these guys follow college basketball a lot more than me. So I felt like I would kind of moderate and throw in my 2 cents every once in a while. So I guess the first question I have is the March Madness has been pretty chalk lately with the introduction of the NIL. So we have the 1s and 2 seeds, the 1 seeds being Duke, Arizona, Florida, and Michigan. And the 2 seeds being UConn, Purdue, Houston, and Iowa State. Do you see any of those 8 teams kind of being upset, or do you feel like they have pretty much a ticket punch to the Sweet 16?
I mean, as far as the 2 seeds go, you know, I think the first round matchup for most of the 2 seeds is you want to say it's pretty self-explanatory and just go with those teams. However, you know, like for instance, Purdue, I think Purdue, the reason they got that 2 seeding is because they won their conference championship. And so, but also they're going up. If they happen to make it past Queens, then they're playing against Miami, Missouri, who I think, you know, I don't see that 2 seed getting past round 32 potentially. You know, who else we got on here? I mean, Houston,
you want to scroll up
Idaho.
and think Mike Purdue is in the West region.
Yeah, West.
So
I forgot I was only looking at half of the bracket, so I'm trying to get the other half.
Yeah, so Nate, you're saying that you like a potential upset for Purdue in the round of 32?
I do actually. The reason I say
Wow.
that is because Missouri's a 10 seed and they've had one of the toughest schedules this entire year. And then if Missouri happens to not get past that first round, you're going up against a tough Miami team who's also beat, you know, a few top 25 schools this year. And so Purdue, I think, is probably the 2 seed that snuck in as a 2 seed. I mean, you got UConn. UConn had a streaky 4 games during their season here. You got Houston playing Idaho. You know, you got an Iowa State, you know, had game of the year with #1 school Arizona just a week or 2 ago. And so I do think all 2 seeds are going to get out of the first round. I think Purdue's going to have the hardest path there, though, as a 2 seed.
Interesting. Mike, any comments on other 1 or 2 seeds that you think could be upset in the first 2 rounds, first weekend?
Sorry, I'm just making sure this is visible. I got both sides of the bracket now.
There we go.
Honestly, I have all 1 seeds and all 2 seeds advancing through the weekend.
For sure.
You just look at these teams and they're just too good. I will say Duke is actually really interesting. I still think they're going to make it through the weekend. But Duke has Caleb Fossil, who's hurt. They don't know what timeline he has for coming back. He had some sort of fracture in his foot, I believe, and he got surgery a week or so ago. And then Gumba, who's their starting center, he's expected to return back for the tournament, but who knows like what his percentage level of being healthy is. And obviously they'll take care of business against 16 Siena. But that TCU, I think TCU is going to be Ohio State, and I think TCU is a tough, you know, second round matchup for Duke. They're tough, they're scrappy, and they played a Big 12 schedule, which is arguably like one of the hardest schedules to play. So they played against the Arizonas, the Kansases.
Yeah, well, they beat Florida too.
Florida, yeah, exactly. So I still expect Duke to win, but that could be a closer game.
Yeah.
So that's like one thing I'm potentially looking out for. If I'm looking at the other 1s and 2s, out of all the ones, maybe like I think Florida maybe is a little bit shaky, but they do have an easier bracket or side of the bracket compared to like a Duke per se. So I see all 1s and 2 seeds to advance at least to the Sweet 16. Nothing crazy here.
Yeah, no, I side with Mike. I have all 1 and 2 seeds getting through the first weekend. But yeah, maybe I got to do a little bit more due diligence on Purdue. And
no, I mean, Purdue's a very well coached team. You know, they got a 5-year point guard who's just playing incredible this season. Their guys all play well together. Their bench is deep. And so I do think all 1s and 2 seeds are going to get out of it. I think Purdue is probably just going to have the hardest time getting there. But Purdue's one of those teams that, you know, they could easily also make it to the Final Four. And so it's going to be a very interesting matchup here. The thing with Duke that surprises me is Duke's the #1 chosen team to win March Madness this year out of all brackets. And to me, I think, like Mike was saying, I mean, you got TCU, solid team. They beat Florida, beat some other schools this year. Big 12 school, like Mike was saying. And then let's say, you know, St. John's advances and Duke plays TCU. Well, now you're most likely going up a Kansas, who's very well coached with Rick Pitino. And you also got a potential Kansas matchup if they make it out of the first round. And so, you know, if Darren Peterson's healthy, or you're going up against a number 5, which I actually think St. John's might have deserved a higher seeding than that. And so I think Duke's probably going to be the #1 team that has the hardest chance of getting there. I mean,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, I mean, I was hoping for some, you know, clickbait. So, and I don't want to reveal too much of your bracket, but so do you have Purdue being upset in the round of 32?
So I have no, I don't. I in my main bracket, so right now I currently have 2. I have Purdue beating Missouri. I have Missouri pulling that upset on Miami. And then I do have Purdue beating Missouri. Now, again, though, I think that either of those teams, Miami or Mizzou, that's going to be a game. I think that Miami-Missouri matchup is probably going to be the tightest, well-matched up team in the first game.
Gotcha. Okay, so you were just saying
it seems like you're trying to farm some clips right here. You want some crazy.
Yeah, I wanted him to say.
Again, I think Purdue's an Elite 8 team. That being said, I just think as far as the 2 seeds go, I mean, Houston's Houston. I mean, UConn, again, they've had some interesting games this year, but if they beat Furman, you're either going up against a UCLA who's kind of been streaky this year, and you're going up at UCF who's been streaky this year. And so I just think as far as the matchups go, Purdue's going to have the hardest time, but I do think Purdue's the better team for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, Mike is definitely true. You know, nobody wants to hear just chalk. All 1 seeds make the Final Four, so people want to hear, you know, hot takes. Shout out Stephen A. Smith. So that's what
I got a few for later if you want to hear them.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. But yeah, we can just keep moving on. I want point of underdogs. You know, I said it when we first started that, and me and Mike have talked about how we feel NIL has kind of killed the Cinderella story because these good players on small market teams are no longer incentivized to stay on those small market teams because, number one, they don't lose any eligibility moving from team to team every single year. And then whether they get recognized in the tournament or just throughout the season or their conference tournament, these good teams will see them, they'll recognize their talent, and they'll just throw a bag at them. And that small market, Oral Roberts or Wichita State just doesn't exist anymore. So,
well, and just to add on to that, Spencer, what's interesting too is talking to some of these European players coming over, playing professionally, coming back to college basketball. You know, $100,000 overseas, you know, good money, right? You know, you're playing basketball, everything's paid for. However, now a college is telling you that you can make $800,000 to $1 million coming back and playing, you know, not saying the talent's anything different out there, but I mean, these guys have been in professional programs for years already. And now you're giving them, you know, 8 to 10 times the amount of money. And so I think overseas professionals are becoming saturated in college basketball as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not a perfect science because, as me and Mike both know, I don't even know his name, but number 34 for BYU, granted, it's not overseas, it's G League. I don't think he should ever see the floor.
Abdullah Ahmed.
I agree.
He is, yeah. To be fair, all of the G League players that came back to college have all pretty much sucked. I think there's 3. Yeah. Ahmed is one on BYU, and then you have James Najee on Baylor, which is ironic because I watched the BYU Baylor game and both of them were guarding each other, and I'm pretty sure none of them scored any points. And then there's one guy on Alabama.
Yeah, so overseas is probably, you know, more to what you're saying, Nate, than these G League players who, just aren't really performing.
It's hard for, I mean, these G League guys too. I mean, it's everybody wants to chase a bag, and these G League salaries are $40K a year.
Yeah, so, you know what this did? This killed the G League Ignite team. Totally, like, why would any kids go play G League in the G League on the Ignite team if they can just go to college like they were in the past and make $1 million?
Yeah, so like
so much more exposure too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, like Amari Bailey, for instance, it's like he played at UCLA, got drafted by the Hornets. I think he played in a handful of games, and now he's, you know, committed or took his visit to GCU, Grand Canyon, which is a much lower conference than UCLA was, and it's like, I guess how much is your pride worth nowadays? Because you can't hate on these guys either, too, because it's like $40K versus $1 million to come back and, you know, play a game that you've played your entire life. So it is interesting with NIL. So that's why I don't really know if there's going to be that many Cinderella stories this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, most definitely. Me and Mike 2 years ago, and I think I did it with another friend last year, we saw that people were just making a ton of money blindly betting underdogs. The one guy in particular, Matty Betts on Instagram, he put out a video because he's done it the last 4 years and gave his statistics. So in 2022, he went 19-46, and these are all just betting $100 blindly on the underdog. So in 2022, 19-46 made $11,064. In 2023, a lot better, 24-43, making $1,979. Then the wheels started falling off with the introduction of NIL. 2024, he went 20-47, lost about $400, and last year got absolutely cooked, 13-53, losing $2,900. So pretty brutal. But with that in mind, I wanted to ask both of you, which teams, high seeds, do you think are going to underperform? We kind of talked about it a little bit with Purdue, but still kind of see them as a good team. So we would say, like, I don't know, 6 and up seeds do you predict to underperform? And which seeds, I guess we'll go 10-16, do you think have a chance of overperforming? And we know that with the caveat that
let's start in the East. In the East region, I think Kansas is one of those teams where it's like you watch them and half the time they're amazing, the other half of the time they're like, what are you doing? I will say their philosophy of how Bill Self likes to coach, especially this team, is very defensive focused right now, because other than Darren Peterson, they don't really have a ton of offensive firepower. So I will say that does help them, because when you focus on defense, at least you can play defense. If you don't focus on defense like BYU, like, sure, you score like 80 points, but then you allow the other team to score 90 points. Like, a lot of these lower tiered schools are like hoping to shoot a lot of threes, and that's how they beat these higher seeds. But I think Kansas is one to watch out for. I still think Kansas will take care of business, but I've been hearing a lot about this Cal Baptist and this what's that guy? Dominique something?
Dominique Daniels.
Dominique Daniels. They beat UVU in the
heartbreaker.
In the WAC conference championship. And all because UVU missed a alley-oop dunk.
Yeah, to send it to overtime.
Yeah, but this guy, I heard he's phenomenal. He's a small guard. He's like 5'11", but I think he's averaging like 20 plus points a game. Can shoot it from anywhere, can drive to the basket. But yeah, you got to watch out for this Kansas team potentially. And even if they get past Cal Baptist, I think they're going to really struggle against these good teams because they're so inconsistent.
Yeah. Well, I think those schools like Cal Baptist, for instance, I mean, you look at a mid-major program. I mean, you're lucky if you get a 6'10" or up guy. You're lucky if you get two of them, one backing up the other. And so I don't know CBU's depth, but teams like that, you're going up against a Big 12, big men now, and I think that's where it hurts. So I do think, like you said, Mike, living and dying by that three is what's going to make these teams advance, just because of, you go from a 5'11" guard to these other schools that are starting their point guards at 6'5", 6'6", and so I think things like that will come into play where you'll start seeing where undersized guards or undersized big men are just struggling with SEC Big 12 competition.
Yeah, so Kansas is one of them. Who else? Looking at the who would I want to? Oh, yes, looking at the Midwest region, I think Texas Tech is definitely on the way down, and I see this as an upset. Partly because of Akron, mostly because of Texas Tech. And when you lose JT Toppin, like Big 12 Player of the Year, like if he stayed healthy, he was going to be a first team All-American as well. Like that's such a big hit. Christian Anderson has been amazing, but they're literally this is the team that lives and dies by the three. And if you're an underdog, like that's exactly what you want. As long as they go cold from three, like they're very beatable. So I think Texas Tech is definitely a sell on Texas Tech right now. I think they're going to get upset in the first round. Even if they make it to the second round, they play an Alabama team, which we can talk about this Alabama team with potentially not having Aiden Holloway, who just got arrested a day or two ago. So that's also another one, Alabama on there. And I use said 6 and up. Technically, they're below.
Yeah, I mean,
below this threshold, but I'm very bearish on Kentucky. I think they've had a very awful season. They have a very talented roster. I believe they spent $20 million on their roster just to be middle of the pack in the SEC. Granted, the SEC statistically, I think, is like one of the best, if not the best conference. Even though I disagree, I do think the Big 12 is the best conference in the nation, but SEC would be a close second. And having a very subpar regular season, very subpar conference, I think tournament, I think they only won one game. And then I think they'll also get upset by Santa Clara, which is the first, they've made the first tournament the first time in how many years? Like 40, like 20 something, 30 something years, something like that.
Yeah, I do have Santa Clara over Kentucky first round. All the games I've watched Kentucky this year, they've just been so hit or miss, and all the games that they did win was a dogfight. It wasn't a blowout win or anything like that. There was a few games that they did win, like that Arkansas game, where I don't necessarily think. I mean, they did deserve that win. I think 9 out of 10 times Arkansas is going to beat you. Back to that Akron team. I mean, Akron's 10-0 in their last 10 games, I believe, too. And so I could see Akron being that first round upset too. I really like this South Florida team in the East region. Louisville's got Michael Brown Jr., who's an absolute stud, going to be a lottery pick. But same thing with South Florida. They're 10-0 in their last games, riding the momentum. they got nothing to lose. Louisville has everything to lose. And so I could see South Florida being an upset game too as well. And then even, I mean, North Carolina, I mean, Caleb Wilson's out. He won't play a single minute in the tournament. Now VCU is an Atlantic 10 team. You know, I think North Carolina still pulls through being an ACC team. But I mean, you just lost out on a top 5 pick for the whole tournament. And so, you know, VCU might ride that momentum as well.
Yeah, one thing I really like to look at, especially during March Madness, is guard play, because bigs can get you very far, but if you don't really have like good above average, and then as you advance to the later rounds, elite guard play, it just lowers your chances of beating a team. Because say you have these teams like VCU, like North Carolina has pretty decent guards. Caleb Wilson was kind of like a pseudo guard for you. He could handle the ball, but Seth Trimble, he got injured, then came back. He's kind of like your only guard. I wouldn't even call him like a big ball handler per se. So, yeah, I trust VCU's guards more than North Carolina. North Carolina's point guards,
I agree with that.
have been kind of up and down.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and Nate, you made the comment about Mikhail Brown Jr. for Louisville. I don't know if you know, but I believe he is out at least the first weekend, if not longer.
Yes.
And the line started off at -7.5 for Louisville, and it's dropped all the way down to -4.5. So people are seeing this news, reacting to it, and I'll go ahead and say it. I have USF over Louisville. Granted, my opinion's not super well documented because I don't follow college basketball as much as you guys, but I see an upset, and you got to stand on business. So I'm going to say USF upsets Louisville in the first round.
I like that.
Yeah.
Any other big underperformers or overachievers? If not, we'll just keep going.
I mean, here's a decently hot take. I think Michigan State is one of those teams that you might see in the Final Four. I think North Dakota State has actually been a pretty good program for the last few years, and I could see Michigan State maybe keeping North Dakota closer than they should.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing that isn't going for North Dakota State is they're a very small team. I can't remember. Their tallest guy might be like 6'8" or something, but they're very much a perimeter-oriented team that shoots a lot of threes. So if they get hot from three, they can definitely disrupt what Michigan State's doing. Michigan State is very volatile when it comes to offense. They're typically pretty good defensively, but offensively, they typically play two bigs, Jackson Kohler and who's the other guy? They have two like essentially 7-footers that they play in the starting lineup. So I think that will cause issues for North Dakota State. So that'd be my only thing. But I think North Dakota State is a good team. If they get hot from three, they can definitely keep this team close.
Sweet. My next question is, we mentioned the number 1 seeds and how I think last year was the first time in 20-something years all number 1 seeds had made the Final Four. So once again, number 1 seeds, Florida, Michigan, Arizona, and Duke. Which of those number 1 seeds do you guys have being the first one to be knocked out?
Ooh, this is a good question.
Mike, you want?
I got to pull up my actual bracket.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start it off.
Yeah, let's hear it, Spencer. What you got?
I have Florida losing to Vanderbilt. And what is that? The Sweet 16?
Which they did already this year. Just a week or two ago. They
played each other, twice?
Yeah.
And
Vanderbilt's a very deep team.
Even their loss during the season in mid-January, they lost by 4 points. Hosting Florida, so obviously it was a home game, so got that home court advantage. But they absolutely smoked them in the, SEC tournament?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think Florida's big men are fantastic. That Alex Comden kid, I think, is a stud. When he's on, he's arguably the best big man in all of college basketball when he's playing good. I think Florida's guard play has hurt them.
Yes.
Their guards this year, Xavier Lee, coming from Princeton, had a rough time shooting the ball. But when he could shoot the ball, he's lights out too. And so I think it's going to come down to Florida's guards. You got Boogie, he's a stud. He's a very well perimeter defender too. But I mean, if Florida, if all went well for Houston, they're going to have to play probably Vanderbilt and Houston. And those are two tough matchups.
Yeah, I could definitely see Vanderbilt winning. I'm just not completely sold on this Vanderbilt team yet. I know kind of what they did in the SEC tournament is very impressive. I've seen certain stretches where they just have not played very good. I actually went to the game here in Austin. It was Vanderbilt versus Texas. And Texas is showing them that they're actually a better team than a lot of people think. So I give props to them. But they kind of dominated Vanderbilt that whole game in Austin. And I thought, here's a Texas team who barely got into the tournament and then struggling against them. Granted, it's a road environment. SEC is a tough conference, but I will say they do have really good guard play. So if their guards come to play, I think they can win. Florida, my big concern is the guard play as well. Xavier Lee is not what everyone hoped he was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Boogie Fland is good coming from Arkansas, but they've just been shooting very poorly. And the highlight of this Florida team is their big men. You have Condon, you have McLaughlin, or McLaughlin, or whatever the guy, another 7-footer, 7'1" guy coming off the bench, and then you have the other guy, Chigbee or something. Some African name.
He's a stud.
But my favorite player on that team is Thomas Houck. He is by far, I think, the best player on their team.
Lottery pick.
Nice 6'6", like wing player. He's improved his shooting a lot. He's improved his ball handling. High IQ player. Plays really hard on defense. Is capable of guarding essentially 1 through 5. So I'm really big on him. But yeah, their lack of guard play, I could see Vanderbilt potentially upsetting them. But I do have Florida advancing, and then I have them getting beat by Houston in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Or Elite 8, sorry.
Yeah, Florida's got a tough go, actually, because even if Vanderbilt loses, they're most likely going to match up against a Nebraska team who's had a great season.
Since we're talking about Nebraska, that is another team. I was super high on them throughout the year. I actually have them getting upset in the first round. And their streak of never winning never winning an NCAA tournament game will continue. They will get upset by Troy.
I like it.
Nebraska, they've had shades of being really good. They've beat teams like Illinois. They played Michigan relatively close. These good teams in the Big Ten, but then they've laid absolute stinkers, especially at the end of the year. I get it. UCLA at home, that was definitely the play. That line was super weird. It was like Nebraska. I think UCLA might have been even favored. So I think Nebraska was a slight underdog in UCLA, and usually look at their performance the past 5 games. I'm like, what the heck? This is easy to choose Nebraska. And then UCLA proceeds to blow them out by 20 points. So I think this Nebraska team, I love Fred Hoiberg. I love his son, Sam Hoiberg. I love their whole team. But Rink Mast, BYU played them at the very beginning of the season as an exhibition, and that guy hit 8 threes. But I do think, they'll lose to Troy. This Troy team is really good. Supposedly they have a really athletic, 3 or 4 man who's just a rebounding machine. That'll do damage on Nebraska. So I think Nebraska's out the first round.
I like that. Is that your highest upset, Mike?
I believe so, yeah.
So when do you guys have a number 1 seed falling? Who's your first number 1 seed to fall? Because mine's Florida.
To fall. I mean, I think
he has all Duke, going to the final four.
I think Duke is not making it to the Final Four potentially. I do have Arizona is the team I'm rolling with. Just watching them all. I mean, you got Compton Magic alum Koa Pete, so I'm rocking with the old travel ball team. But you know, even the games that Arizona lost, it's like they easily could have won as well. They could have had a perfect season this year. And so I think you have great guards. You have a three-man who's going to be a lottery pick. You got Brandon Burries. You got a solid big man too. The Arizona's always got a 7-1 plus guy on their team. And so I think offensively and defensively, Arizona's my team I'm going with this year.
Yeah, as far as 1 seeds, I have Duke out in the Sweet 16 game against yours truly, St. John's.
Yeah, me too,
what
Mike.
We in Elite 8 is an awesome matchup. Rematch St. John's versus UConn.
Yep. And I think St. John's deserved that 2 spot, actually. And I think UConn should have taken that 5. Because I believe St. John's beat them twice this year. And so I think St. John's is a fraudulent 5 in a good way. So I think Duke's going to have a hard time getting past St. John's.
I like it. No, I was playing around with Duke and trying to figure out when I saw them getting bounced, if they ever got bounced. I like St. John's. I like Rick Pitino. I have Duke going over them, but I do have Duke getting bounced by UConn and Dan Hurley in the Elite 8.
Yeah, because that's, I mean, again, like if they do happen to make it past St. John's, then you're meeting up with Dan. And I think 4 of UConn's losses shouldn't have happened. And so I think when UConn's on, they're tough to beat. Yeah,
and their coaches has been there before. He's battle tested.
Yeah. I mean, he's a back-to-back tournament champion, and so UConn's been here before. This isn't anything new for them, and so this is right where UConn likes to play.
Most definitely. So yeah, I mean, I guess we can just go into if you want to share your entire Final Four or any last teams to look out for, or even your championship. You want to hold that close to the vest. I get it. I'll go ahead and share mine. Like I said, I had UConn upsetting Duke in the Elite 8. So I got a Final Four currently still subject to change. Got 1 day left. I got UConn versus Houston. I got Arizona versus Michigan. And I have Arizona currently coming up on top.
Yeah, I like that. I got mine pulled up too.
Okay, I can go ahead and do mine. All right, so Final Four, I have UConn with the win over St. John's in the Elite 8 to go back to the Final Four. And then I have a tough matchup, Arizona versus Purdue in the West Elite 8. But I roll with experience. I know Arizona is the team to beat. Honestly, I do think Arizona is better than Duke from a personnel standpoint. I think Purdue just has the better experience as far as guard play, big man play. They have 3 guys. Yeah, Braden Smith, like Nate was saying, was a 5th-year senior. And then you have Trey Kaufman-Wren, who I believe is also a 5th or 6th-year forward center. And then you have Fletcher Lawyer. He's a 5 or 6-year senior as well. All 3 of them initially at Purdue from the start. I believe that none of them have transferred schools, and all 3 of them were there when they got upset as the number 1 seed. So they will finally make the journey back to the Final Four. Them playing Michigan in the Midwest, end up beating Michigan, and then UConn playing Houston, UConn beating Houston. And then you have a rematch of the 2023 national championship, UConn, Purdue. And then this time Purdue finally gets it done and wins the championship.
Wow.
I like it. I like it. No, Purdue. I mean, Purdue's arguably the best coach team in the country. And nowadays with NIL, it's so hard to find guys who've played more than a year together. And so, yeah, no, I think Purdue, um, they are a really good team. That they're my what if team this year.
Yeah, Purdue is always one of those teams where it's like because they got upset that one year, like everyone's like, oh, they're chokers. They can never like pull it off. But I think this year they could pull it off.
Yeah, no, I like that. Well, Spencer, who did you say your Final Four is, Spencer?
My Final Four is UConn, Houston, with Houston coming out on top. Arizona versus Michigan, with Arizona coming up on top. So then my championship game is Houston, Arizona, and I got Bryce James and the Arizona Wildcats being the national champions.
And then Bryce declares for the draft, right?
Yep.
Averaging
54th pick,
like 2 minutes a game.
And Bryce will be like the 65th pick in the third round of the NBA draft.
They'll make a third round just for him.
Just for him.
Honorary third round.
Sadly, honestly.
Third round, first pick.
Well, yeah, Spencer, I'm kind of right there with you. I'm a big Arkansas fan this year, and so I was a little bit torn putting Arizona beating Arkansas. I think Arkansas is a very well coached team. I think they got bigs who are good. If their bigs aren't scoring, they're making it up on the defensive end. Their guard, I mean, Darius Acuff is arguably, I mean, in my head, he is the best point guard in the league right now, in all of college basketball. And so I have Houston beating UConn and Arizona. I've been watching Iowa State. I think March Madness is where you let the three fly. I think Iowa State has the best shooter in the country. I think they're the best shooting team in the country, arguably. And so I actually have Iowa State coming on top of Michigan and losing to Arizona. So I have Houston, Arizona coming on top. And I'm a big Houston guy too. I think Houston's a little bit undersized. That's always kind of been their problem. They can never get over that hump. I think they should have beat, who was it? Well, I mean, they're always a Final Four team.
To be fair, they barely beat Duke last year. Duke should have won that game.
That is true. I think I forget his name on Houston. He's leading Houston's entire program in all-time threes. And so I think I think if Houston's offense is on, they're already one of the best defensive teams in the country. And so if their offense is on, they're a hard team to beat.
Yeah, so it sounds like me and Nate have a pretty similar Final Four and an exact championship game. That's a super hot take. Mike has Purdue coming out on top of UConn. So we can
Mike, what are your one seeds, Mike, in your Final Four?
My one seeds are only Michigan.
Only Michigan. So who do you have? Who do you have Arizona losing to? Purdue.
Purdue in the Elite Eight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I think we could go to like barn burner like games that'll be. I think honestly that Louisville South Florida game is going to be a really good game first round. UCLA UCF will be a really good game. I know this technically isn't first round. Going into the next round, I think Wisconsin Arkansas is going to be a barn burner game. That's going to be a really good game. And this might be a hot take too, but I actually have Wisconsin over Arkansas in that game.
Wow.
Wisconsin's a great.
Wisconsin's one of those. Yes, they're giant killers. You see them. They took down Illinois multiple times during the season. They're the only team that beat Michigan at Michigan. So they're very flip-floppy on their play, but I think they play against good competition. They usually show up. And you know why? It's because they have a very veteran backcourt. They have Blackwell, Noah Blackwell, or I think that's his name. He's like a 4th or 5th year senior guard. And then you have Nick Boyd. Remember the famous FAU run to the Final Four? He was on that team with Dusty May. And they almost beat Michigan in the Big Ten tournament too.
Yeah, no, Michigan is an interesting 1 seed. I like that Alex Mara kid is a little bit hit and miss. That transferred from UCLA, their big man. But you got Yaxel, who's going to be a lottery pick. 6'8", 235, 240, whatever he is, and so I think Michigan's a very big team. But I mean, they definitely showed a lot of weakness in that conference tournament championship against Purdue. So, and that's kind of why I went with Iowa State beating Michigan, is just because I think the 3 ball is going to come in handy for Iowa State. So,
yeah, I mean, I have Iowa State going pretty far. I have them losing to Michigan, but I don't know. Iowa State's just kind of one of those teams. When they're on, they're on. When they're not, they're not. Like they have multiple 20-point losses. And I get it, that happens, but I'd say it's a bit concerning. They sometimes struggle to score.
Cool. Well, I don't have any other questions. I don't know if you guys have any last comments. I guess maybe the last question. It's me and Mike are both BYU alum. They've been hit with the injury bug even before the season started, but definitely mid-season, losing Richie Saunders, playing his last game ever as a BYU Cougar, tearing his ACL. I almost wanted to pick BYU losing to Texas just because
they very much could, honestly.
What did they finish?
They
finished the season, 500 over the last, 8 to 10 games, losing pretty badly a lot of those games.
Yeah.
But I have them. I want to see Debanza a little bit in the tournament. So I have them winning that game, but I always like Gonzaga. I watched a couple of those games just late at night because they play on the West Coast in Seattle. Big fan of Graham Ike. I have them losing to Gonzaga in the second round.
I do too. I was actually, in my head, I was thinking NC State was going to pull through and that BYU would have a hard time with NC State. I bet
NC State.
I did too.
Devastated.
Got cooked on that. That was heartbreaking. I do think BYU matches up better with Texas. And like people forget, like you got Rob Wright averaging 19 points a game and 5-6 assists. And so I think the game plan is going to just try to take AJ out of his game and, not let him just ISO every play. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what BYU's role players, especially my twin, I want to see what he can do for us this year. So
I kind of disagree with you, Nate. I think NC State was a little bit better matchup for BYU because NC State, you clearly saw it with the Texas game. They don't really like to play defense. Neither does BYU. So it's just going to be a high-scoring game, and I think BYU can win that battle. Texas, the only thing I'm concerned about, actually 2 things. Texas has multiple long wing players that can take their turn guarding AJ Debanza. Obviously, I don't think one single player can guard AJ, but when you have 2, Dylan Swain is their guy, he's like a 6'8" forward, as well as they got Trayvon Mark, who hit the game-winning shot for them last night.
Volkatitis against
that's my big concern. They have a big center, 7 foot, good. And you know what BYU does not have? They do not have size.
Caba's going to have his work. Yeah, Caba's going to have his work cut out for him because, Volkatitis, I think that's his name. He incredible footwork. Soft touch around the paint, 7'1", I think. Yeah. And so, big body in the paint that BYU is not really used to. And then, when Caba comes out, I don't know how much Ahmed's playing time is going to be, but I think they're going to have some struggles with big men against Texas.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly what they're going to do. because I saw what NC State did with them, because NC State's not super big in the middle either. They like double teamed him every single time he caught on the post, but obviously you can see Texas is a decent 3-point shooting team. I can't remember what they shot, but a lot of their early shots in the game that let them go up 10 were 3-point shots that were relatively open. So that's my one big concern. And BYU isn't great defensively in the first place. So I almost want to see if you maybe try playing him straight up at first and see what happens, since Kebaketa, he's like 6'8", 6'7", but he is pretty strong. I think he probably can push Volkatitis out a little bit. But yeah, at the line right now, you see it. Yeah, BYU could lose. I think BYU has enough to win this first game, though.
Yeah, I want to see more of AJ and having him bounce
too.
in the first round. I think he's going to put the team on his back. And I heard somebody saying that he won't score less than 30 in every game of March Madness. So
yeah,
let's see that, AJ.
Yeah, he's going to have to. This is what's going to separate the number one pick for me, is this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas should take care of business in round one, but let's see what Darren Peterson can do against St. John's defense.
And rumor is he might not even play against Cal Baptist. So
that coward. If he doesn't,
I know.
I will say when BYU played Kansas and Kansas just kind of smoked them, granted was in Lawrence, but still Darren Peterson looked like the number one pick, and I believe he was the number one pick. But then as you kind of go through the season, this whole fiasco, see what AJ's doing without Richie Saunders. Like, I think right now at this point, the number one pick is AJ. And the only thing that would sway people's minds is if Darren Peterson had like an insane tournament run.
Yeah.
Even if AJ has kind of like a stinker first game, I think he's still number one. But it would take Darren Peterson just to kind of go off at least a couple of games for him to claim that number one spot.
Yeah, I think if Kansas could get past that St. John's game, things could get interesting. Let's see. And then the first game tomorrow is that TCU Ohio State game, and both of you have TCU, right?
Ohio State.
Ohio State's a very good team too. I think it's a very close game. Let's look at what the line is. Yeah, Ohio State's actually favored by 2.5 points. So actually, more probably will take that bet.
But it opened at 4.5, so people are on TCU.
Oh.
Well, how do you? I meant to ask you guys this earlier. How do you feel about this play-in game tonight with the 11 seeds?
Oh, SMU, I think, easily wins that game.
So the spread, I don't. Obviously in Utah,
like
can't use the full stuff, but yeah, Fliff, it was showing 7.5, and I kind of like that. I think SMU is a very good program, and I think they got some dogs on their team. And so I think SMU could cover that spread tonight against Miami, Ohio.
Yeah, I think Miami, Ohio is very overhyped, and I am. This is the perfect spot where they put them in the play-in for the first four. I think if they got in without winning their conference championship, I think that would have been terrible. Even though everyone's like, "Oh, they've only lost one game, and the one game was in the conference championship," is like, well, they literally had like the second, like it was I think 5th worst or something like that. Strength of schedule in the entire NCAA.
It's like 383rd or something like that. Like, just like absurd. Yeah.
Horrible. So I think the committee got it exactly right. They put them in the first four, have them play in to make it to the round of 64. And then that will, single-handedly prove it's a Power 4 team. They really deserve to be there.
Yeah. And so neither of you have Miami, Ohio making it past tonight.
I don't know.
No. It's SMU. Would I lay the 7.5? I'm not exactly sure. I would like it at a lower number, like 5, like 4.5, 5.5.
And what about the Lehigh Prairie View A&M game?
Oh, honestly,
I don't know either
idea.
teams, but just shout out to CJ McCollum.
Yeah.
I'm gonna roll with Lehigh.
Yeah,
I actually rolled with Prairie View. I want to say it was plus 4.5 covering tonight. Just because I think I don't know much about either of those teams. I don't think really anybody does, other than the fact that CJ McCollum went there. And so I think it's just an even match game. And I think this is probably going to be a 2-3 point game potentially. But yeah, I took Prairie View plus 4.5, I believe it was.
All right, we'll have to be seen. But yeah, I think unless you guys have anything else to say, that kind of wraps up the March Madness preview. So
I'm just happy to be here.
We'll have to see how far AJ can take the Cougs and what number one seed gets bounced first and whose bracket's most accurate. If some of you viewers don't know, they used to do, I think Warren Buffett offered $1 billion, no longer doing it, but Kalshi taking over the sports prediction market. They are offering $1 billion if you can have a perfect bracket. And I think the odds of that is like 1 in something quintillion. But if you do have the most 9.2 quintillion. 9 million trillions, to put that into perspective. So yeah, odds aren't exactly in your favor, but if you do have the most accurate bracket out of all the ones that are submitted, you will win $1 million. So, buy a house, buy a pair of shoes.
I've been this is a side note, but I've been seeing a lot of people on Kalshi do like a 5-figure bet, 10 grand on UCLA to win the whole thing, in hopes that they just make it past the first round, and that money, and then just cash out, repeat. So potential future strategy for you guys, I guess.
I'm just curious about that, because I'm sure there is a ton of liquidity when it comes to like NCAA champion, but like if you pick like a super obscure school, it's based off of like other people buying your position essentially. I just don't see like who would actually like want to buy like a UCLA to win the championship.
Oh yeah, I watched this kid. He did 16K because he took his winnings from the Super Bowl, put 16K on UCLA to win the whole thing at 1.4 million. But if UCLA gets past the first round, he cashes out an extra like 12K or something like that. And so, yeah, that's his strategy. And so I've been seeing other people talking about it.
I'm curious,
like, but you have to be willing to lose 10 grand.
But I'm also curious on what the odds would be if you just picked like UCLA straight up. I would assume it would have to be somewhat similar.
I mean, it's pretty close because they're 7-10. So.
Like just to win that one game. Like if you're just going to end up just cashing out after that round. Because there are a lot of instances like at least a lot of sports books will put a ton of hold on these like future bets. So that's why you always like add up the odds. Like it's always more than like 100%. So there's actually a lot more like I think if you do the math, like if you were to roll it over, say you pick like Houston or whoever to win the championship, if you just like bet a certain amount and just rolled it over every single game, I think it might be
the same boat.
Yeah, same amount, if not.
Yeah, like it is through Kalshi. I'm still not on Kalshi, so you guys would know more about that. But
we need to send them a referral code.
Yeah, send me one. Whoever sends it first, I'll use.
I know. I'm gonna send them one.
Sweet. Well, yeah. Shout out to our special guest host Nate for coming on. Appreciative of your ball knowledge.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. And if you ever need to talk again, let me know. Happy to be here.
Sweet.
Cool. All right. We'll end at that. Thank you all. As always, stay responsible. Bet responsibly. Let's go win some money. This is not financial advice. Catch y'all later. I don't know. We'll probably in the next show or do like a follow-up or something on the first weekend.
All right.
Sounds good, guys.
Call it wraps on that. Catch y'all later.
All right.